At the same time, today is that day where we get an opportunity to dissect what is happening, what has been happening over the week with the one and only Ken Gishinga, Mentoria CEO, and The Economist will be helping us to put things into perspective. That is this afternoon. But business today has just started. Tighten your seatbelt. We're about to take off. It's Friday. You know, Fridays are crazy. So we take a look at the markets. Okay, now there we start us off with matters. Equity Bank, Equity Group has released their results for the first quarter of 2019. Profit before tax grew by 6% to 8.8 billion shillings, up from 8.3 billion shillings the previous year. The group registered a 15% growth in total assets to reach 605.7 billion shillings, driven by a growth of 12% in customer deposits. Here's more.
Profit before tax 6%, increasing from 8.3 billion to 8.8 billion, confirming the sustainability of this bank and our contribution to public in terms of first quarter, giving the exchequer 2.6 billion. Environment is good. The macroeconomic indicators are positive. Robust growth has started emerging. Our yields before interest capping 2016 were at 16%. The gross interest rate now is 13%. The organization has been able to adapt itself and take an interest capping now as a new norm. We can operate efficiently in a low interest regime.
All right, now let's enter the world of technology. Globally, the demand for software engineers is on the rise, and Africa is looking to ensure she is tapping into this space. Andela Kenya is one such company which houses software engineers that collaborate with clients from all over the world and create the technological products they need from right here in Kenya. On Tech Buzz this week, Malika Kazia visits Andela and finds out more.
Development, software engineering, but what really does a software engineer do? Well, today on Tech Buzz, I'm here at Andela, Kenya, and we're going to find out exactly what this world of software engineering is all about. Now, Andela actually started in Nigeria back in 2014, but a year later, they did come to Kenya, and they've been here since 2015. They have offices all over Africa today, and there are more than 600 or so software engineers at their Kenya office. But what do they really do? Well, we're going to find out today on Tech Buzz. I'm Malika Kazia. Why don't we get started?
To think of the art of writing or the craft of writing software as the art of like teaching, let's say, a child how to speak, for instance. So computers are these boxes that have a lot of capability, right? But they need to be taught how to do this and that. So a typical software engineer or software developer is an individual who learns how to give instructions to computers. So, and this can be done in various languages, just the same way someone would speak, let's say, English, Swahili, and maybe other tongues out there.
Global firm Hired estimated that worldwide, the highest demand for software engineers is in the blockchain engineering subcategory, followed by security engineers. And the need keeps growing, such that even initiatives associated with Mark Zuckerberg have collaborated with Andela.
What we are affiliated to is the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, which is an initiative or an org that was put together by Mark and his wife Priscilla. And what they did for us was they came in as the main investor in our Series B funding, which was approximately $24 million for us. And that money was supposed to come in and help us and help Andela, grow at scale and expand our operations, to serve, to reach out even to our mission beyond what we were doing at the time.
I sought to speak to one of the software engineers at Andela. Lois Andia found her passion for technology after high school.
When I was finishing high school, I finished high school in 2010, and I was at home thinking of what I wanted to do. My dad suggested that I do a diploma in public relations just while waiting and making my decisions. And during that time, my brother was doing IT at that time. So he would come home and then he one day opened up my dad's laptop, everything, checking it out, and then I was like, okay, this is something interesting and I want to know why all these things are working out inside here. So I went ahead and I decided to do computer science in the university. My current focus is on health. I'm currently working with a company that helps stroke patients improve their mobility through games and robots. Coding is not very different from websites and to games. The whole concepts around software development are all similar. The only difference with games is there's a little bit more in terms of graphics and a lot more on calculations, the mathematical bits of how things move on the screen and all that. But the whole aspect about software development concepts, they're all the same throughout.
Creating websites and games for companies in the US and beyond from Kenya is no mean feat, but traditionally the occupation has been associated with men. Lois says that this is certainly changing.
Women are actually very good at what we do, and sometimes we end up really being way better than even the men, and actually most of the times. So there's a time I met some developers we were working with. They had never met me, and when they met me, they were like, oh, so you're a lady. We thought you're always like this guy who's like 40 years old, who knows how to do their stuff. In the African tech ecosystem especially, the ladies haven't yet picked up that much. We are actually trying. We have a lot of initiatives going on about women in tech, girls in tech. There's the whole Akira Chicks. Most people are actually helping to grow the whole STEM is in terms of ladies. Others starting from as far as high school. That is Akira Chicks, the likes of Technovision in Safaricom, even us in Teen Code. We also do the same, growing them out from high schools. But we're still not there yet. I think currently in Andela we have 20% female developers, which is actually, we're doing okay, but we're not doing great, see? So it's all a matter of encouraging, and what I've learned mostly with all the ladies that I've interacted with, especially with the ladies in high school, it's just a matter of confidence. They always need just that someone to hold them up and continue with them throughout the journey until they feel comfortable.
As more women continue to be encouraged to enter the space, the gender equality conversation is being championed. Software engineering continues to grow in demand and cut across geographical borders. Malika Kazia, KTN News.
All right, that is Tech Buzz. Moving on swiftly, the 9th East Africa Petroleum Conference comes to a close later today in Mombasa. KTN's Abi Agina talked to Stephen Kuria, one of the delegates from Australia.
Well, many thanks for joining us. Of course, the East Africa Petroleum Conference is underway here in Mombasa, and a lot of stakeholders are taking part in this particular conference. We want now to speak to Stephen Kuria, who is a delegate at this conference, and he's also one of the diaspora, representing the diaspora community. Thanks, Stephen, for making time for us on Business Today. Just talk to us about some of the key issues that have come out in this particular conference so far.
Thank you, Mr. Agina. The conference have gone pretty well. Also good to see the whole East African community together, not as individual. The presentation was good. I presented on behalf of Australia Africa Energy and Mineral Institute. But one of the key things that we spoke about is the local content. As we now stand where we are now doing the FID stage, we need to start understanding where does Kenyans or the East Africans been involved. One of the things that we are asking to be implemented is a monitoring and a team to be set up to monitor the local content and evaluate. They set one in Nigeria, and it's been very successful after going on the other way for a long time, because that will ensure that the pipeline that is being constructed from Rokichia to Ramu have local content and have Kenyans actually involved with the welding. As you know, we do pipeline welding, are constructing that site. And we need to get ready now. We cannot wait for 2 years to start training those people. They need to be actually ready now. So that was the key issues, and that's a gap we think we are missing at the country, is enforcement, because the foreign companies, you can tell them to have local content, but if they are not enforced, it's not going to work. The other thing in Petroleum bill, also the Procurement Act should also state clearly that all the international company must have local content and the percentage of local content that's involved. Yeah.
And as we wrap up, Steve, so far government has delayed in terms of making a final investment decision on the oil exploration in Turkana, and this will sort of impact Tullow Oil's milestones in terms of starting the next phase. From where you sit, what should the government be thinking about? Because this could really delay us. We were to actually start in 2021. Things now look like we might go to 2022.
To me, actually, Mr. Agina, is a good thing. If you're negotiating for your mortgage, you're not going to negotiate for tomorrow and let that go. You have to give the credit bill. We have moved quicker than Uganda. We have moved quicker than Tanzania, even some other countries. This process, take 20 years. But we did a very short time. So I'll urge our leaders is to ensure we negotiate completely before we agree to move forward. There's nothing wrong with a delay to just ensuring that things are right. There's no need to rush. Yes.
No need to rush. Thank you so much, Mr. Kuria.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, we've been speaking to Stephen Kuria, who is a delegate taking part in this particular East Africa Petroleum Conference that comes to a close later today. From us, from Mombasa, it is back to you in studio in Nairobi.
Thank you very much. I'll be again all the way from Mombasa. A National Employment Authority established by an act of Parliament held a meeting ahead of the launch of the National Employment Authority Act 2016 set for the 17th of May in a bid to increase access to employment by the youth, minorities and marginalized groups. Julie Wambui has the details.
Through the provision of employment services, we have registered job seekers. A job seeker can walk into any of our offices where we are located and register themselves. Later on, we get to see how we're using technology to make this easy for Kenyans. We provide guidance and counseling for job seekers as well. And we also do registration of vacancies, as well as to collect and disseminate labor market information. We came into being towards the end of 2016, but essentially we began our operations about April of 2017 due to the technicalities of setting up the authority. But since then, we have achieved placement of 41,654, essentially about 42,000 Kenyans. We've been able to place them in gainful employment. The other area is to ensure that our Kenyans or our young people have the right skills for them to get into the employment market. And what we've done is through the development of a national internship policy. We have a draft national internship policy that is under discussion, and this policy is aimed at guiding employers and also job seekers or would-be interns in terms of accessing internship, which should provide them with a work experience that's necessary to get them into the workplace effectively.
All right, from matters employment in Kenya, now we're about to break down weekly issues, and I'm joined by the one and only Ken Gishinga, Mentoria CEO and economist. Ken, welcome on set. Amazing. Good to see you. It's been a while. Huh?
Always a pleasure to see you.
Always a pleasure. Karibu.
Asante sana.
Yes. Wiki imekuwaje?
Very, very happy. Very good week. Lots of big events,
Yes,
globally
sir.
and locally. So very excited to be here.
Okay, now let's hit the road and the ball running. The first thing is supplementary budget. It was tabled in Parliament yesterday. We saw quite some shocking figures. And I can see there I'm doing a little bit of tongue twisting. But there was an increase by 65 billion shillings. Now that is a shocker considering the situation we are in economically. But what was concerning is that KRA, they failed to meet their revenue targets by March by 98 billion shillings. Why so?
That's not really surprising. If you've been following Kenya's economic history, KRA has been missing revenue targets for the longest time. And if you look at last year with the fuel price increases, we said when you increase taxes on fuel, you slow down the economy, fewer businesses operate, and KRA starts collecting less and less income from there. So for me, it was not a surprise. So the big question is, how do we start stimulating businesses so we can start collecting more revenue and for the first time in our history, start hitting those targets?
Wow. So that is matters supplementary budget, and also we saw some funds were pulled from the development, budget to be pushed into other areas. Should that be a concern, seeing this transfer of funds? Because we've been complaining for the longest time that our majority of our money goes to recurrent expenditure.
Exactly.
So when we see some amounts being removed from development budget, what does that say about the country?
That's normally the main problem when you miss your revenue targets. The government needs the money anyway, so it has to find places to go and get it. Now it can't reduce salaries, so where does it go? It goes to the schools, the hospitals that were supposed to have been built, the roads that were supposed to have been built. Now that has a future impact because those roads would have created future economic opportunities. So that's the problem of not meeting their targets. It means they slow down Kenya's economic growth trajectory.
Quite unfortunate. Equity Bank. Wow. Their Q1 2019 financial report, balance sheet standing at 15% growth to 605.7 billion shillings. Talking of banking sector, what is it about Equity that they keep on making this profits?
And to think about it, Equity Bank got its license as a commercial bank in 2004. The fact that it's the second most profitable bank, arguably this year it could be the most profitable bank, I think is a testament to their character. They have been innovative. 94% of their loans are going through mobile phone platforms.
Yes.
If you look at how they're doing their regional expansion, 7 countries in the stroke of 1 week, they announced they're going to open in 7 countries, not by doing greenfield initiatives,
Yes.
but really by partnering with Atlas Mara and really buying all the assets. So I think it's a bank that really thinks out of the box. And I think that's the reason it's been able to post such robust numbers despite the interest rate cap, despite the other challenges that we've seen in the banking sector. They're still been very robust.
And they are partnering a lot with other people just to make sure, especially technology, leveraging on that and making sure that finances are getting outside there. And that one leads me to the next issue, that is Retirement Benefits Authority. Yeah, this is a fund that is very key. Initially, there was an argument that this pension funds should be very keen to invest in infrastructure and whatnot to double their income. But looking at their strategy, 2019-2024 strategy, they're saying that they're targeting 2.4 trillion shillings pension savings by 2024. Is it achievable?
Yes, that was a big ceremony they had, I think, on Wednesday. It was marked with pomp and ceremony. I think the big challenge that they have is 80% of Kenya, the formal of the labor market, operates outside of the formal market. So they don't really have the access to pension services, if you like. Only 15% of our labor force really is covered there. So for them to talk about increasing pension penetration, they really have to think about how do we formalize all these informal people operating, because unless you do that, you'll never hit their target. Then the next question is, pension funds, most of them are locked up in treasury bonds and treasury bills. Very, very conservative asset classes. When will we see a change of that classification? So we start seeing pension funds going into private equity, pension funds going into the real economy. I think those are the two most poignant questions that a lot of commentators were talking about.
Yes, and they are saying that they will be leveraging on phone technology to make sure and roll out initiatives like you can be saving for your retirement using your phone 20 bob a day or 50 bob a week, such initiatives. And you've seen quite a number of them, in different platforms, not only, pension funds, and they're really working. So I think that is a sure bet for them. Hopefully they achieve that particular, target. Now, speaking of US-China trade, this is huge because these are the biggest economies in the world. And all of a sudden we are having this tension. There were talks. Where do we stand right now?
You're right. The two largest economies in the world, US and China, they can't see eye to eye on a lot of issues. The US accuses China of stealing their trade secrets, intellectual property fraud. But China says it's really trying to engage the American economy. So what Donald Trump really ended up doing was to increase tariffs on Chinese imports from 10% to 25%, and that was supposed to be active from midnight today. So that's going to be huge because a lot of Chinese products come into the American market. Now, that seems to be a way of punishing China. But if you really think about it, what the Chinese exporters will do, they'll really pass on those costs to the American consumers, because at the end of the day, all these products are manufactured in China, but they are consumed in America. So it's going to be the American consumer who will have to pay a higher price. So in a way, it has this way of really hitting back at the American public in an indirect sense. So the sooner they can resolve these issues, the better.
Whoa, that is quite huge, and let's hope that they will resolve the issues, because the talks have been ongoing for quite some time right now. Closing us up in less than a minute. Uber, initial public offer. Where do you stand right now? What are you expecting? Because they're expecting a valuation of 82.4 billion, and a share will be going for $45. Is it achievable? They were aiming for $100 million, but they've just fallen short.
No, if you think about it, these unicorns, like such as Uber, they command a market valuation of, as you say, $84 billion. Think about it. What's Kenya's total GDP? It's round about there, almost $90 billion. So one company has the same valuation as the entire Kenyan economy. So it's really mind-boggling numbers. And yes, this is going to be the second largest IPO after Facebook that took place. It's interesting because Uber hasn't yet made a profit. Yes, we use them here in Kenya. They're very viable, but if you look at their P&L, they've never turned a profit. But the fact that investors still continue to throw in money in there, it shows you how hungry people are for growth stories. And Uber is a growth story that most people can relate to on a day-to-day basis. Millennials aren't driving their own cars. Millennials are not eating out. So things like Uber Eats are very, very, very profitable. And that kind of innovation. And let's talk about Uber entering the freight space. So I think that kind of innovation is what is really attracting a lot of investors.
Very, very, very informative. Ken, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
This week is Bob Marley's Remembrance. Do you have any quote from Bob?
I have to think of one.
I know. You just have to remember the song. Anyway, thank you very much for helping us break this week and put it into perspective. Ken Gishinga, Mentori CEO and also an economist. Harvard trained, to be specific. And with that, let's take a look before we close up this segment. We shall be having issues to do with, trading bells. This week on Trading Bells, we speak to Managing Director of Globetrotter Agency Limited, Vidya Jetwa. And here's what to expect. But from us, of course, we're closing this up. Thank you very much for watching Business Today. Have an amazing weekend. I'm Noakip Kimboy, and we're out.
Globetrotter Agency Limited is a travel agency like any other travel agency. We do tours, ticketing, MICE, conferences, car hire, transfers, visas, to name a few.
Wide.
Quite wide. We have everything that a normal travel agency would do, like from ticketing, which is regional, international tickets, organizing tours, whether you have a walk-in client or a corporate client. The first thing I would want to achieve, at least for this year, with the help of Ibuka, of course, would be to be IATA. I'm a non-IATA travel agent that's running for 5 years, and we do intend to become IATA hopefully by December 2019. My name is Vidya Jetwa. I'm the Managing Director of Globetrotter Agency Limited. Join me this Friday on the Trading Bell at 3:30.